Another day, another video about Christian Dvorak, Arizona Coyotes center, and a guy who has been in the trade talks the past few days. Now, if you missed the previous video we made about Christian Dvorak, highly recommend you go ahead and check that out. I talk about my opinions and my overall thoughts about this player and what I think of the guy and everything that I've perceived out of his profile the previous few years. And we speak about the different teams that are apparently interested, from Detroit to Montreal to Ottawa and Minnesota and San Jose, Pittsburgh, a whole bunch of teams over there. We're going to go over a different part of that discussion in this video because it comes to us in the form of Craig Morgan as to what the price could be. And I thought it would be interesting to go over how these teams could respond to that negotiation price and what exactly it could be that gets a Dvorak trade done. Now, just for the vague, just general overview of the player, Christian Dvorak's a guy taken in the 2014 NHL Entry Draft in the second round by the Arizona Coyotes, Phoenix Coyotes back then, Arizona Coyotes today. And he's a guy who put up 31 points in 56 games played. He's been trending upwards the previous few seasons on a bad Arizona Coyotes team. Almost got 20 goals this season. He's a pretty good overall, just two-way guy who would probably be a second, third-line center on a good team. And NHL teams are going out there looking for him because he's got a $4.45 million AAV until 2025. This is what the Sports Illustrated Hockey News article talks about. Arizona Coyotes insider Craig Morgan believes that the Coyotes could be reluctant to part ways with him. Morgan speculates that the price could be 2 prospects, or a prospect and a first-round draft pick. Now, I think the wording of this is a little bit strange. 2 prospects versus a prospect and a first-round draft pick could be seen in a multitude of ways. 2 prospects? Okay, let's give them 2 seventh-round guys that we took last year. Versus a prospect and a first. Okay, we'll go out there and we'll give them a 5th-round guy and a first-round draft pick. I think what Morgan means by 2 prospects and a prospect and a first is kind of the same territory that we had seen with the Jack Eichel sweepstakes, where it was 4 first-round caliber assets. That was apparently the asking price, according to Renaud Lavoie in a Sportsnet interview. I think that same principle most likely applies here. When you say 2 prospects, they're most likely referring to 2 first-round caliber prospects, if not 2 prospects later in the draft that have worked up to first-round contention status, Guys that, had they been involved in a redraft, would have gone in the first round instead, like Sebastian Aho, like Alex DeBrincat, like Kirill Kaprizov. These guys are guys that were not first-round caliber talents, but if you did a redraft, they would be in that conversation. Even guys that are more recently drafted players, like Nils Höglander. He's a guy that was taken 40th overall, second-round talent over there. He would have been a first-round guy if he did a redraft because of how good he's been with the Vancouver Canucks. So that's kind of what I think they mean here when they say 2 prospects or a prospect and a pick. And then as you go further in this article over here, you take a look at what Elliotte Friedman says. This is what they highlight over here. With David Krejci returning to the Czech Republic, Morgan suggested the Bruins could be interested in Dvorak. On July 21st, Arizona Sports 98.7 FM's John Gambadoro suggested the Senators, Penguins, and Vegas Golden Knights could be potential suitors. Friedman speculated the Flames, the Wild, the Canadiens, the Rangers, and the Sharks could come calling too. You also have the Flames and the Wild that get involved in this conversation too, not to mention the Red Wings that we highlighted in the previous video as well. And so when it comes to these discussions, I want to go over the fan bases of each of these teams, and I want to ask you specifically, would you do Christian Dvorak for either a first-round pick and a first-round prospect, or 2 first-round prospects in general? Let's go over each of these teams here and go over what exactly the Coyotes could ask for, starting out with the Ottawa Senators. Now, for the Sens, I know I just kind of trashed your team in the previous video. Forgive me, please. I still enjoy what it is, the product you're icing out there. But if it's the Senators, if you're going to go out there and trade away, let's just say, you got a logjam on defense, you trade away a Lassie Thompson and maybe a Ridley Gregg or something like that. Both first-round caliber guys. Thompson was taken 19th overall in 2019. Gregg was taken 28th overall in 2020. Is that a trade you would make when you say, okay, we're going to get Christian Dvorak back? You send over Gregg and his feisty attitude to the Coyotes alongside of Lassie Thompson. In my opinion, the best shot of all the defensemen in the 2019 NHL Entry Draft. Is that a trade you make? In my opinion, honestly, I go ahead and I say yeah. I'm honestly kind of not too high on Ridley Gregg compared to other first-round talents, especially those in the 2020 draft. And for Lassie Thompson, I mean, he's a shot in the dark, but the Arizona Coyotes could use a pretty good right-handed defenseman with a boom of a shot over there. I'm personally all for it, but I know Senators fans really do like their prospects, so I'm not really too sure if they would go ahead and make that. So let me know in the comments if that's something you'd be comfortable with. For the Pittsburgh Penguins, hey, you guys don't have any first-round caliber guys aside from Samuel Poulin, who was taken in 2019, and that's about it. You have a whole bunch of other guys that were taken later, and the guys that you reacquired, like Philip Hollander, for example. You would have to go the first-round pick route with Arizona, should the Penguins go out there and make a trade for Dvorak. So, would you trade Samuel Poulin and a first for Christian Dvorak? I know Penguins fans would probably say, yeah, our window is closing soon. We need to go out there, sacrifice everything we can in the future to go out there and try to win now. So I think I kind of understand where you're coming from over there. Taking a look at some of the other teams over here, though, hey, Vegas Golden Knights, you guys have traded away so many gosh darn prospects. Glass gone, Suzuki gone, Brannstrom gone. You still have Krebs, though. And apparently, the Jack Eichel thing has involved Peyton Krebs, and you guys are reluctant to do that, so would you do it for the Dvorak instead? That's the entire question right there, that in which I'm not really too sure you would go out there and say yes to, because if you're not going to say, okay, we're not touching Krebs in an Eichel trade, you're probably not going to go out there and say, okay, we're not touching Krebs in a Dvorak trade instead. Other than that, though, you got Caden Korczak, he's a second-round guy. Brendan Brisson's doing really well from the Chicago Steel System, 29th overall in 2020. And then you have Zach Dean taken out of Gatineau from the most recent NHL Entry Draft. I think if you talk about any of these guys and swapping them around for a Dvorak, you probably do it. But that's just kind of me, though. Talk to me in the comments if you're a Vegas fan what your opinion is. For Montreal, okay, this is an easy one. Let's go ahead and talk about Caden Gooley and maybe another first or Matthias Norlinder or something like that. You know, Matthias Norlinder's not a first-round guy, but I think he's in that territory where you could try to justify him potentially being a first-round pick. If that's the price, I don't know if Canadiens fans would say yes. You know, I know they really like their prospects, so it's kind of tough to decide over there. Let me know in the comments what you would think. Or maybe just Caden Gooley and a first-round pick for Christian Dvorak. Is that something you would entertain? For the New York Rangers, I mean, you guys got a boatload of prospects already. Nils Lundqvist is the guy that you don't want to part with, nor is Braden Schneider. You have first-round picks and all that. You have really good players that you acquired. Would you do like a Brennan Othmann and a first for Christian Dvorak right there? I know you just drafted Othmann, so it's difficult to say, okay, we're going to get rid of him, but that's just kind of my thought process and where that defaults to in a Rangers conversation. As for the San Jose Sharks, I mean, you guys have a whole bunch of guys that you took over there too. You're not going to trade William Eklund in this kind of situation over here, so would it be like a first-round pick and, I don't know, a Ryan Merkley or maybe an Ozzie Wiesblatt? They're technically first-round guys, technically in the same boat right there, so I'm not sure. Sharks fans, let me know in the comments what you think about that idea. Then we go over to the other teams over here. You have yourselves the Minnesota Wild. You don't touch Marco Rossi, most likely. He is a top-of-the-line prospect, and I love that guy to death, so I'm not going to go out there and suggest Rossi, but what I would suggest maybe is, I don't know, a first-round pick or something, and not a Jesper Wallstedt, he's a little bit too valuable. Not really Marat Kusnedinov, he was not really in the territory of being in that first-round slot just yet. Maybe a first-round pick and a Carson Lambos, or a first-round pick and a Matthew Boldy. His name has been tossed around in trade talks forever, it seems like. So, Wild fans, let me know in the comments if you do that for a Christian Dvorak. And then for the Red Wings, I mean, you guys got a lot of prospects as well. You're not going to touch Koser, you're not going to touch Raymond. First-round picks are kind of super valuable to the Red Wings, so I don't really know if they'd be involved in these discussions, but just for the sake of conversation, let's go over a first-round pick as well as, I don't know, a Joe Veleno, because you take a look at Joe Veleno, he's a guy that might be cracking the Red Wings this season as a second, third-line center. And if you get Christian Dvorak instead, you're essentially moving up a few years because Dvorak is a few years older. He is in that position where he's already an established NHL player who is consistently at 30 points trending upwards as well. So that's kind of the thing that would make sense a little bit to me. You would be paying a first-round pick to upgrade your Veleno to a Dvorak. Would you really want to give up on a Veleno this early into his career? So talk to me in the comments if you're a Red Wings fan about that, or if you're a Habs, a Wild, a Penguins, a Golden Knights, a Senators, a Rangers, or a Sharks fan as well. Let me know in the comments what you think about this entire conversation over here. Christian Dvorak, 2 prospects, or a first and a prospect being the asking price. I hope you enjoyed this video. Rolls and bye.